Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are really undertaking quite a massive project. We're cracking open what feels like a complete operating manual for profound personal change. Our listener shared this incredibly comprehensive 30-chapter guide, Rebuild Yourself by Malcolm Justice. They sent it because, they're looking for a structural plan, something solid for total internal elevation.
That's a great way to put it, a structural plan.
Yeah.
The mission here really is to shift how we see ourselves, to stop thinking of the self as, a finished product.
Right.
And start treating it more like a dynamic daily construction project. This material tackles that fundamental question. How do we move from just reacting to everything thrown at us?
The noise, the demands.
Exactly, from being reactive to becoming the deliberate architect of our own lives. How do we make that conscious shift?
And what really struck me about Justice's approach is that initial focus. It's deeply internal first. You can't start building, the external structure until you actually understand the blueprint. So let's unpack that. This blueprint for authenticity. It seems discovery comes way before any demolition.
Absolutely, that's spot on. The very first step is rediscovery. Chapter 1 makes this powerful case for passion. And it argues passion isn't just some nice-to-have, a hobby.
Not a luxury.
No, not at all. It's framed as the core energy, the fuel that gives you direction, drive, and honestly, the courage you need for the setbacks that inevitably come with any big change. It's like your internal compass.
Okay, but what if you feel like you've lost that compass, or maybe never even found it? The advice there is quite brilliant, I thought. Look backward. Revisit old childhood journals, or just think back to those activities where you were so totally absorbed, maybe drawing, writing, just watching ants in the garden, that you genuinely lost all track of time.
That losing track of time is the key signal.
Yeah.
That temporal blindness, as you called it, points towards something authentic, something unprogrammed, passion before the world told you what you should be passionate about.
And that idea of being programmed leads right into the next big piece, doesn't it? Personal values.
It does. Because from the moment we're born, the world starts programming us. Sometimes pretty aggressively, too. To meet external expectations, what family wants, what society defines as success, that endless performance we see on social media.
Right. Keeping up appearances.
Exactly. So the core of rebuilding, Justice argues, is shedding those false roles. Peeling back the layers.
Shedding false roles sounds vital, but practically speaking, how do you tell the difference between a false role you need to ditch and, just necessary adult responsibilities? Does he give a metric for that?
He does, yeah. It comes down to alignment.
Yeah.
You have to really sit down and assess whether your current life, your daily choices, your relationships, how you spend your time, aligns with their true personal values.
Not the ones you inherited.
Precisely. Not the ones from parents or peers or Instagram. And maybe the clearest metric is that feeling of foreignness, alienation almost. The more your life reflects what others expect, the more you could feel like an exile in your own life, like you're living in a house someone else designed.
That makes so much sense. That feeling of performing a life that just doesn't quite fit. That's the misalignment he's warning about.
Yeah.
And this idea gets picked up again later when the book talks about creating your own world.
Yes, exactly. Chapters 10 and 26 really drive this home. The material stresses that you have the absolute right, maybe even the responsibility, to create a world that matches your rhythm, your colors.
So success doesn't have to look like the collective definition, the corner office, the specific lifestyle.
Not at all. It's about your definition.
Yeah.
And crucially, chapter 26 hammers this point. Don't wait for permission.
Ah, yes. That was powerful.
Don't wait for a society's nod or your friend's approval or even for your past self to somehow magically align. Change is an internal decision. It's a declaration of sovereignty, really.
Yeah.
You decide.
Okay, so you declare sovereignty. You've rediscovered some passion, started thinking about values. But you can't build something strong and authentic on, shaky ground full of junk.
Precisely. Which brings us neatly to the next phase. Internal maintenance. And it starts with what Justice calls the art of clutter removal.
And this isn't just about tidying your desk, is it? He expands clutter way beyond the physical.
Oh, absolutely. It includes the mental clutter, those negative thought loops that just run on repeat, emotional clutter like exhausting relationships that drain you, and of course those deeply embedded bad habits. It's all clutter.
He uses that analogy of renovating an old house.
Yeah, a really powerful one. You wouldn't start putting up new walls before clearing out all the debris, the rot, the old wiring. Same principle applies internally. You have to identify everything that feels heavy, that drains your light, your energy.
That list. I found the instruction to actually write down the mental and emotional debris really striking.
It's necessary, isn't it? Because until you name it, until you list it out, it just remains this sort of ambient dread, this vague heaviness. Naming it gives you something concrete to tackle.
I feel like I'd need a long weekend just to write my list. My mental sludge list might be longer than my grocery list some weeks.
I think many of us could relate. But the point is solid. Every negative item you consciously remove, every toxic connection you prune, it creates real, usable space. Space for something better to actually grow.
And you definitely need that space because life is, well, life. It guarantees difficulties.
Yeah.
Chapter 5 dives into developing emotional resilience.
Right. Justice makes the point that just being strong isn't enough. Life will knock you down. You need flexibility. Resilience is that ability to bend, not break, and crucially, to rise again after a fall. It's essential for the long haul of rebuilding.
Okay, so resilience means confronting the hard stuff, fear, loss, failure, not running away. But the book says these tough experiences are teachers. How do you shift into student mode when you're actually in the painful moment? It's easy to see the lesson later, much harder when you're hurting.
That's a fair challenge. The technique suggested is about naming an observation. You actively acknowledge the fear. You put a label on the loss. This is grief. This is fear of failure.
Oh, okay.
By doing that, you create a little bit of distance. You shift from being overwhelmed by the emotion to observing it. It turns the internal storm into something you can sort of analyze externally. The moment you name it, you take away some of its raw power. It allows you to start freeing yourself.
This sounds like constant management, really, which centers us on mental health. The source defines this not just as, the absence of depression or anxiety, but as a state of deep internal balance.
Yes, exactly. It's about equilibrium.
So what are the practical steps Justice outlines for maintaining this command center?
Mind purification is a big one. This means actively choosing to reduce your exposure to negative, high-anxiety information. Constantly scrolling through bad news, endlessly comparing yourself on social media. That stuff taxes the system.
So curating your input.
Yes. Cleanse the information intake, reduce the perceived threat level, lower the background hum of anxiety. This creates silent space, which is vital for reflection. And then there's the practice of treating negative thoughts like external broadcasts.
How so?
You notice them, but you don't automatically buy into them. You see them as suggestions, perhaps, but not inherent truths about you or the world. You develop an observer self.
That reframing, seeing the thought as something observed, not automatically believed, feels really central to regaining internal control.
It is. And there's a crucial point made here, too. Justice explicitly states that acknowledging you might need external psychological support. That's presented as the highest degree of strength, not weakness.
That's important to hear.
Absolutely, because it shows you prioritize the structural integrity of your own command center. You're willing to bring in specialists if needed.
That leads perfectly into tackling one of the heaviest pieces of debris we often carry: resentment. Chapter 13 is all about forgiveness as freedom. Holding on to anger, that feeling of abandonment, deep-seated resentment. It's described as this crushing weight you carry around, actively stealing your energy every single day.
And what's really interesting is the motivation he pushes. This isn't about being saintly. Forgiveness, in this context, is presented as a purely, almost selfish act. In a good way.
How do you mean?
It's not about condoning whatever hurt was done to you. It's not about saying it was okay. It's about making a conscious choice to untie yourself from that painful past. You forgive others because you deserve peace. You deserve to move freely without being tethered to that old pain.
Okay, but it's hard. Holding on to resentment can become like a habit, a kind of muscle memory. How do you make that choice daily, especially when the hurt feels fresh or deep?
He acknowledges it's a practice, not a one-time switch flip. Justice frames it as continually, consciously choosing to remove that thorn from your own heart. Each day, sometimes multiple times a day.
And it applies inward too, right?
Oh, absolutely critical. Forgiving yourself for past mistakes, for missed opportunities, for time you feel you wasted. That daily act of removing self-blame is what finally allows you to move forward unburdened.
Okay. So we've cleared out some debris, mental, emotional. Now we shift from maintenance to active construction. Section 3 is about structure, sovereignty, the daily build. But wait, if we just found freedom through forgiveness, why immediately impose a routine? Doesn't that feel contradictory?
It might seem that way initially, but the argument is that true freedom needs structure. Structure isn't presented as restriction here, it's the framework for freedom. Chapters 4 and 7 really emphasize this.
How so?
Transformation isn't magic. It requires repetition, consistency, structure. A solid routine creates predictability and a sense of control, which directly feeds that internal balance we talked about. It carves out dedicated space for the rebuild.
The morning routine gets special attention.
It does. Waking early, before the world starts making its demands on you, gives you this invaluable private time. Control over the first part of your day. The advice is to dedicate those first 40 minutes, maybe an hour, entirely to yourself.
For what kinds of things?
Meditation, maybe some light exercise, reading something inspiring, setting clear intentions or goals for the day. How you start the morning really sets the tone for everything that follows.
And within that structure, there's the gratitude practice.
Yes. Simple but incredibly powerful. Writing down, say, 3 things you're genuinely grateful for each day. It sounds small, but it actively reprograms your brain's filter. It shifts your focus from lack and what's wrong to abundance and what's right. It's part of the structural build of a positive internal environment.
This disciplined, structured approach seems to lead directly to that huge realization in Chapter 9, radical self-ownership.
Ah, yes. The big one.
The most liberating and maybe the most terrifying truth in the whole project. No one is coming to save you.
That phrase, it really lands with a thud, doesn't it? It can feel quite stark, maybe even bleak at first. How does justice help you move past that initial shock, that potentially paralyzing fear, towards empowerment?
By showing you that this is the pivot point. This is where the victim narrative completely dies. The moment you fully internalize that you are the person you've been waiting for, the cavalry isn't coming, it's you stop blaming circumstances or other people.
You take the reins.
Completely. You cease playing the victim and you take full, radical responsibility for your life, your energy, your choices, your responses. And that ownership, that's where the power lies. It's not terrifying, it's the ultimate source of agency.
And that self-ownership flows right into self-leadership.
Yeah.
Chapter 11 talks about this. Justice asserts there's a dormant leader inside everyone.
Not leadership in the corporate sense, though.
No, not about titles or managing teams. It's defined as courage. The courage to decide what's right for you. The courage to admit when you're wrong. The courage to choose what genuinely frees you, even if it goes against the grain or popular opinion.
And you start small.
You have to. You start leading with micro decisions you can absolutely control. What time you wake up, how you talk to yourself inside your own head, that internal dialogue, what behaviors you will and won't accept from others during your day. Each small conscious decision rebuilds your internal authority brick by brick.
And this rebuild, it's not a short-term project. Chapters 23 and 16 really hammer home the power of small, consistent achievements.
Yes, rejecting the myth of the overnight success, that instant transformation we sometimes crave. The material is clear. Great achievements, lasting change, they're built from daily, often quiet accumulations, little wins compounding over time.
So we need to actually notice and be proud of those small steps. Getting out of bed when you feel disappointed, writing just one page when it feels hard, saying no to something that would drain you.
Exactly. That continuity, that steady rhythm of showing up for yourself day after day is infinitely stronger, more reliable, and ultimately more powerful than any temporary burst of inspiration or fleeting dazzle. Consistency beats intensity over the long run.
And then perhaps the ultimate act of courage in this whole process, outlined in Chapter 24. Giving yourself permission to start anew.
Even after you've built something.
Yes. If you climb the ladder and realize it was leaning against the wrong wall, if you discover that the life structure you've built, even if it looks successful to others, doesn't actually match who you authentically are anymore, you grant yourself permission to start over.
Regardless of age.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Whether you're 20, 40, 70, this isn't framed as failure or weakness, but as rare courage. The courage to choose authenticity over a comfortable but perhaps soul-crushing stability.
Wow. That takes guts.
It really does. So, wrapping this up for you, the listener, we've essentially walked through this 30-chapter roadmap. It's about finding your real passion, shedding those external expectations and roles.
Clearing out the mental and emotional clutter, definitely.
Building that sacred daily structure for yourself, taking total radical ownership.
Yeah, owning your internal and external world.
And the big takeaway, drawing from that final chapter 30, is that rebuilding yourself isn't like finishing a course. It's not a one-time event you graduate from.
No, it's an ongoing lifestyle, a continuous process of becoming.
And a huge part of that journey, stressed in chapters 17 and 28, seems to be about learning how to actually be the person you're looking for, finding that companionship within yourself, which often means learning to embrace solitude, doesn't it?
It really does. Not as loneliness, but as chosen solitude. A space to connect deeply with yourself. The journey of internal elevation is fundamentally about cultivating such a strong, centered relationship with yourself that you stop desperately needing validation from the outside world.
And that connection allows you to actually enjoy the process.
Yes, to enjoy the journey itself, the small moments of transformation along the way, not just fixating on some distant finish line.
Okay, that brings us perfectly to our final provocative thought for you to take away, drawing directly from Justice's philosophy in this book. It's this: the truest loneliness isn't the absence of other people, it's the absence of yourself.
That's powerful.
Peace, real inner peace, comes not necessarily from having people around you, but from your complete settled presence with yourself. So the question to ask yourself daily, maybe hourly, is this: am I actively creating a life I genuinely want to stay in? Or am I building one I constantly feel the need to escape from?
Your answer to that question, that's the real measure of your architectural success in this project of rebuilding yourself.